Book 1, Judgment Day. You're just a tiny little mushroom. The cave was dark and damp, with only weak fluorescence from the plants providing illumination. Tangled vines clung to the cliff face, deep green, purple, and inky black. They resembled snakes tied into large knots. A black insect with 6 stiff wings and 3 proboscises barged into the cave, its flight path erratic. In the next second, a massive dark purple bulge suddenly appeared amidst the tangled vines and swiftly split open, mouth-like, before snapping shut around the flying insect. The vines gradually began to wriggle, and the part that had bulged out retreated bit by bit until it returned to its original state. Within the cave was a sound like that of flapping wings. A drop of mucus, translucent strands trailing in its wake, fell from the ceiling and plopped onto the sticky moss below. The moss began to softly squirm, and the drop of sparkling mucus vanished into the ground as it was rapidly absorbed. In a corner lit up by the fluorescence of green fungi, a tide of white poured forth from the crevices in the rocks and soil, blanketing a large area. It was a snow-white mycelium. It grew, spread out, and extended hundreds of millions of tendrils, then crept towards the center of the cave, gathered together, merged, and elongated to form a figure. A single foot stepped upon the thick and delicately soft moss and sank down into it, leaving only a snow-white ankle visible. Ansel looked at his ankle. Though his human body was sustained by skeleton muscles, blood vessels, and had mobile joints, it was not flexible due to the human skeleton's limitations. Layers of keratin formed round and translucent fingernails. These were vestigial remnants originating from the sharp claws of beasts. He lifted a leg and took a step forward. The damp, springy moss pressed down by his foot gathered together again after he left, looking like earthworms standing erect. This time, he stepped on something different. Skeletal human arm. In the darkness, Ansel looked at the skeleton. Fungi and vines had already taken root in the depths of his bones. Deep green vines wound around the hip and leg bones, while colorful small mushrooms, resembling flowers in bloom, grew upon the ribs. Fluorescent mushrooms emerged from his empty eye sockets and sparse teeth. The green glow they gave off was like fine shifting sand, very blurry in the misty cave. Ansel looked at it for a long time. At last, he bent down and picked up a backpack made of animal skin that had been laying next to the skeleton. The contents of the backpack were unaffected by moisture. There were a few articles of clothing, human food, and water, and a blue electronic chip, half the size of a human palm, that was engraved with a string of numbers: 32, 61, 17, 05, 14. 3 days ago, this skeleton was still a live human. 32, 61, 17, 05, 14. The young human rasped brokenly as the weak green fluorescence illuminated the contours of his face. My ID number. This is my ID number, and only by having it, I can go back to the human base. Ansel asked, "Can I help you go back there?" The human smiled, and the fingers of his right hand dropped to rest at his side. The chip tumbled from his hand and disappeared in the uneven moss. As he leaned back against the cracks, he lifted his head and pressed his left hand to his chest. where a huge wound had opened up. Pale splinters of bones pierced through his chest, exiting from his back, and the surrounding skin had already festered. Part of it was pale gray, with cottony flesh covering the surface of the bone splinters, while the rest exhibited a blackish-green hue and released a continuous drip of dark liquid in time with the rhythm of his breathing. After taking a few breaths, he said softly, "I can't go back any more, little mushroom." His shirt was see-through. His skin looked pallid. His lips were chapped, and his body trembled at irregular intervals. Ansi looked at him, unsure what to say. In the end, he only murmured his young human's name, Ansi. "You have just about learned the human language now." The human looked down at his own body. Apart from pus and blood, he was also covered with snow-white hyphae, which were part of Ansi's body. The hyphae meandered along, adhering securely to the wounds on Ansi's limbs and torso. The mushroom's original intent was to stanch the dying human's bleeding, but the hyphae also instinctively absorbed and digested the fresh blood that flowed out at the same time. "You learned so many things just by eating my genes, huh?" "The evolution index here is indeed very high," the human said. Fragmented scraps of knowledge unfolded within Ansi's mind. After a 5-second-long conversion, he understood that the evolution index referred to the speed at which genes transform.